Hi, I'm Lucille Hautau. Welcome to my studio, and thank you for sharing your time with me today. I'm going to do three things. One, tell you a little about my background and how I became a metalsmith, a little about my family, because certainly they influenced me, and I'm going to show different processes and techniques and the tools I use. And then I'm going to make a piece to show you how I go through the thinking process. Let's start with my background. I am the middle of 7 children. My parents were both brilliant, creative, innovative, and supportive. My father had more, he was a mechanical engineer. He held more than 70 patents, many of which the designs are still in use today. My mother was a musician and an artist. She started at Northwestern at the age of 15 and graduated with a degree in music and in education. Our house was filled with music. There were no fewer than 2 pianos in our living room. And we listened to everything from Ema Sumac to being blasted out of bed with John Philip Sousa marches in the morning, to having the dishwasher serenade as my sister practiced to get out of dishes. It was not unlike my father to snatch me out of bed at 4 in the morning and ask me to come downstairs and texture one of his drawings. This is all done in pencil. This is a tiny detailed drawings. We have his original pencil drawings in 3-point perspective. Some are 30 feet long. So clearly his art was an influence on me. We had total freedom to explore musical instruments, art supplies, reading, books. My brothers by age 8 could weld. They were encouraged to take the lawnmowers apart and turn them into go-karts or mini bikes. I started at Miami in 1967. I knew I was an artist, but I didn't know what kind of artist. I had a choice of graphic art, prints, or painting. I signed up for painting and failed it immediately. I could not draw on a blank piece of paper. I wasn't used to that. I was used to graph paper. So I got behind a whole year and I was floundering. I don't know about you, but the best teacher for me is someone I like, someone I can get along with, someone who inspires me. And I was saved by 2 amazing artists at Miami. Tom Gilmore in graphic design, and a very young Jim Killey in sculpture. Tom Gilmore released his students into the wild. We were encouraged to find pattern everywhere, anywhere. And my eyes were opened to the joys of looking everywhere for pattern. It's all around us. And he taught me incredible skills. These are plaids. By today's standard, any young graphic artist could do this in 10 minutes with his technology. But we did these with ruling pens and airbrushed. And to me, these are works of art. I dare any student today to be able to use an airbrush to create these phenomenal patterns, and I love them. I later incorporated my love of plaids into this plaid cuff bracelet. This is 18 karat gold and sterling inlaid. Every single little piece was cut and soldered to fit. I practiced many times and many designs to make it perfect. I made this 60 years ago. I still wear it all the time. It never scratches, it never tarnishes. It's a great piece. But again, I was influenced by Tommy G. Let me take you through some of the other influences and show you some of my patterns. My thesis was done on any type of patterned metal, and I'll give you some examples. This is called snakeskin, and here is the snakeskin bead. But it's hard to imagine how that pattern was created. So while I couldn't do painting, I could draw like a draftsman. This is showing that I simply wrapped copper around a core of sterling silver, soldered it all together, and rolled it through a rolling mill. This bracelet, you can see the pattern goes all the way through. This pattern was actually created by a gentleman named Chuck Evans at Bowling Green University. This is another one of my thesis pieces. And again, I can draw like this. I just can't draw on blank paper. So in order to get the border on the inside, I had to do a two-piece. This is how the pattern was created, with a single twisted wire, drawn square, a sheet made of it, laminated to sterling, and then cut into the piece. Here's a construction picture. And here's the final piece with the hinge. And here is this piece today. Over the years, I have enjoyed the benefits of living in a community like Oxford, where the arts are a focus. We have the Miami University Art Museum, the Performing Arts Series, the Oxford Community Arts Center. And I especially have learned from craft summer workshops. I even taught one in 2009. I have studied with some of the most masterful artists in the metals world for decades. They have brought William Harper, Heike Seppa, Cappy Cunard, Fred Fenster. And recently this summer, I spent 3 weeks, 2 weeks with Andy Cooperman, and I have spent 12 years studying with one of my very best friends now, Ginger Seipel. Many of the works I'm showing you today are based on influences. When you get 10 to 12 people from different backgrounds together, we share ideas. It is inspirational. It absolutely ignites my passion, and off we go. Here's some of the processes I still am working on. I do a lot of etching. To etch, you take a piece of metal, you do a film resist, which is called PNP, paper press and peel. You iron it onto the metal, then you etch it. I did not set up my etching tanks, but it's an exciting process. So these are some of the possibilities you can get. Clearly, I'm influenced by Asian art. Since I got my first Chinese doll at the Chinese restaurant in Detroit, to this day, I still love the layers of pattern in a kimono. I was commissioned. One of my inspirations are provided by people like you. I was influenced and commissioned to make a kimono temple for the 2013 Hefner lecture. And so I created for George Archibald is the founder of Save the Cranes. So I created a photo etched crane pattern and built a kimono and the kimono stand for him. This is not the first one. This was a prototype. But every little detail I practice and practice. And one piece leads to another. These are my plans for my next kimono stand. Again, I draw on graph paper. I love graph paper. And then I do practice with cardboard. And ultimately, I'll practice with copper until I finally get the piece and the tension to work together to support it and to be easy to wear and easy to take apart. These are some inspirations I can show you. Here is a photo etched piece ready to go into the vat. That's the very simple design. And here is the finished product. These are some of the kimonos I have made. Usually when I'm learning a process, I try to do at least 10 or 12, not the same, but in a series. Most of my photo etching I learned from an artist named Carol Webb. I asked Craft Summer to invite her. They invited her twice. I spent 3 weeks studying with the renowned Carol Webb. What a genius. And here's the kimono about to be put together. This was the original pattern. This was the PNT that I used to keep the resist. Here is the piece I'm going to construct. And I lay it out in paper. I often Xerox my pieces so I can make sure I make good use and function everything correctly. Then I will add a number of details so that every kimono is different. They have obies on the back and a lot of texture and pattern. These were done in Carol Webb's workshop. Phenomenal patterns. Let me show you some of the other tools. When I first started making jewelry, I love chambered nautilus. This was from a Heike Seppa workshop, one of my very first workshops. These are genuine stakes made in Heike Seppa's workshop. And to shape a bracelet, once it's patterned, I simply hammered it. Well, simply, hours of hammering. I used to set a timer because if I hammered more than 30 minutes, I cracked the piece. Well, technology has come a long way. In the last 15 or 20 years, they have developed hydraulic presses and dies. This is a 1,500-pound press. I can use it to press the pattern and shape the bracelet through about 50 different, you inch it forward about 1/4 of an inch each time. But some patterns still just require hand work, hand labor. The hydraulic press cannot do that deep a bend. And again, I work in copper first until I perfect it, and then I move to sterling. This is a copper and fine silver chambered nautilus, more recently done. But I come back to this design over and over. I'm influenced by other artists. Fascinated with Max Escher. Fascinated. In particular, this fish design speaks to me. And I was challenged in one of Ginger Seipel's workshops to make a cuff with hammering. Well, I had to make it mine. So I took my my MC Escher print, had the photo, our letter shop make a reverse. I photo etched the inside and the outside so I could see what I was doing on both sides. And then I repoussed the pattern. Here's the I do a lot with Max Escher prints. And then when the piece was all finished, I added applique patterns to bring out some of the designs. This piece took at least 40 hours. One thing about my jewelry, someone asked one of my apprentices at an outdoor show, what does her jewelry do? Well, my apprentice said, it'll tarnish. And it brings joy. It does more than that. It empowers people. I was at the Oxford Farmers Market with my booth at a commencement weekend, and I met a family, and the mother said her daughter was graduating that weekend, and the mother was graduating the next weekend in New York City with her MBA. In November of that year, her husband called me and said, my wife needs your red dragon bead. I had made a gold cube with a red dragon. And he said, being a woman on Wall Street, she battles dragons every day and she needs that piece. And to this day, she wears it every day. Some of these pieces I'm showing you are decades old, and yet I still like them and people still wear them. I'm finding new directions, new challenges. Every time I do one design, I see 100 more, and I'm lucky to never run out of ideas. Bonnie Raitt said, though, time gets more precious when there's less of it to waste. So this year, COVID changed my life. Did it change yours? I no longer do art fairs. All my art fairs were canceled. And after a year and a half of not doing them, my turtle shell has gotten too heavy to carry around with me. And I like working in my studio on what I want to do. I have totally, did you do any home projects? I totally cleaned my studio and I love my space. I am a happy artist, not a sad artist. So recently, I've been fascinated with capturing gems. The piece that's in, stay there, the piece that's in the museum is one of these tension set. And I'm making a gold one. Again, thank you, my friend, for commissioning this. A beautiful sapphire set in 18 karat gold. And in the center of that, where the stone sits, is a tiny groove that exactly holds the stone. I cannot set stones or do complex work in the course of this 1 hour lecture because I have to be alone. I play a classical playlist. I have to relax. But when that gem is finally snapped into place, it is celebration time. So this is soon to become a finished pagoda temple. And this was commissioned. So that's how it gets constructed. I did a series of 12 of these, and I may do some more. People are asking about those, so I will do some more of those. All right, let's step into the other studio. For today, I'm going to take you from inspiration to finished product. I just found these. These are the fruit of a Kusa dogwood. I mean, look at that. Is that not an incredible natural beauty? Yeah, these things are amazing. I just found them. And so for this workshop, I'm going to show you what I want to do with that. This is the first piece of equipment I bought. It is my rolling mill, and I use it to emboss patterns in metal. Over the decades, I have collected wonderful patterns, and I keep exact track of how tight the pattern is, whether I use cardboards or not, what gauge is the metal. And that way I have a little recipe card for all of my patterns. I find patterns. These are speaker screens. So, sort of looks like that. So I pulled these out. I'm going to use these today. I think I'll use this one. This is a piece of copper. It's a little hard. So in order for me to emboss it, I need to anneal it. Annealing means relaxing the metal. When you pound metal, the crystals get hard. So if you've ever taken a coat hanger and bent it back and forth until it snaps, you have work hardened it. I need this soft, so I'm going to anneal it. With copper, all you have to do is heat it until the colors run around the surface, and that means it's done. Give me just a moment. We always solder with our non-dominant hand. The dominant hand is needed when you're doing close-up detail work. You pick the solder up and apply it. I don't know if you can see, but the colors are running, so it's done. Super hot, probably 1300 degrees. I'm going to drop it into an acid. It's similar to sulfuric acid. It's called pickle. I always treat my metal with respect. I love my metal, and I keep it clean from the moment I start with it until the finished product. And when I get to the finished product, I have very little cleanup to do because I've handled it nicely. From this, I have to neutralize the acid in a baking soda bath, and then I'm going to clean it up. I just use basic baking soda. There's lots you can use, but I love baking soda and I use it in a lot. I love clean metal. Keep it clean all the time. So now the metal's really soft. It has to be completely dry before it goes in the rolling mill, or the rolling mill would rust. My rolling mill doesn't have a drop of rust on it after 50 or 60 years. There are many ways to emboss, but in this case, I want to really bring the pattern through the screen. So I'm going to use cardboards to puff it. So 2 cardboards, and that would be on my list. How many cardboards, how thick, what gauge should the mill be? I'm just going to roll it through. There you go. Well, now the metal is hard again, so I have to anneal it. You learn little tricks in these workshops or talking with other friends. One trick is that you can tell how hot the metal is with a red Sharpie. Who knew? The red Sharpie should disappear. It isn't so critical on copper because you don't overheat it, But if you overheat silver, you wind up with a pool of melted metal. Jewelry is not a static job. I walk miles in my studio every day. Into the acid. Count to 10 maybe. Silver you might have to leave in longer. Only copper and non-ferrous metal can go into the pickle. No steel, nothing with iron in it can ever go in a pickle, or it will plate your piece. This time I'm going to use a brass brush and some soap and water to clean it. One nice characteristic of working with gold, it doesn't tarnish. Follow me out. This humongous heavy machine serves one purpose and one purpose only. My friend Gil Lichty once said, if you need a tool, you're already paying for it. The purpose of this tool is to flatten metal. And it does it so well. So given the shape, I'm going to go with a round disc cutter. I have invested in many different shaped disc cutters. This is the Punch. They have come out with fantastic tools now. These have matching shims, the thickness of the metal. Put the metal in there where I want to center it. Clamp it down with a matching shim on the other side to keep it balanced. This is a solid brass heavy hammer. Here's the other. Tools away. Well, let's see. I need to hang these as an earring, so I need to punch a hole in them. I have a tiny, you've seen hole punches. This is one just for jewelry. Find a nice place to punch it. Now I'm going to shape it. These are dapping blocks, dapping punches. Sadly, I can't show you all my tools today, but I am a tool junkie. I don't want to smash the pattern, so I use a piece of leather to sort of protect it. Don't ask me why I do it. I just do. I want to get all the rippling of the edges flattened out. I mentioned to my nephew, Ron Hautau, who's doing the photography today, that I always aim for perfect. And we both agree that that's a great goal. You rarely achieve it. It's really, what did you say, Ron? Just getting better?
If you aim for perfection, even if you miss, you'll still achieve excellence.
Yes, that's my guy. Sometimes when I think a piece isn't perfect, I go to bed and it turns out by the next morning, the shoemaker's elves have come in and made it perfect overnight. This is for hardening it too. Okay, good enough. Let's go back. I was when I graduated with my master's, I felt like I was a jeweler and I should be a jeweler. So I got a job as a bench jeweler. I lasted about 1.5 years. I found it too constraining. They weren't creative. I mean, people would order a ring out of a catalog and we would put a mounting on it and that was that. At Christmas, I sized 50 rings a day. Didn't like that very much, but you know what? I can really buff now. Remember, I kept my metal nice. So when the piece is almost done, it buffs up like glass. Usually I take a piece through at least 3 or 4 different buffing compounds with increasing the gentleness of it. None of my buffs can interact with any of the others. They would contaminate it. I'm going to rinse the discs and my hands off. I also have a huge steamer that I use to especially brighten up beautiful gems. This is just ultrasonic compounds. Do not put everything. If you have a baby ultrasonic, be careful what you put in there. I rarely put fine gems in my ultrasonic, and of course, never pearls. All we need now are ear wires. In one workshop with at least 12 or 14 expert jewelers, one of the ladies taught us a little trick to make ear wires. It was worth the price of an admission. All of us, none of us knew this trick. It is so amazing. So I can make all custom ear wires now. It seems so simple. Why didn't we think of it? There's the loop. Let's see. This is one of my favorite ear wire things to bend. All the ends aren't even. Let's see. But you can't just wear these. They would cut you. So I have what's called a cup burr. By the way, this is my burr collection. I use every one of these. When I'm buffing a piece, I may have 12 or 15 of these laid out. I mean, which one is the exact one I need? This little piece is the one that cuts the groove in the pagoda temples for the stone to rest. That's a little $55 diamond wheel. So I'm just going to round these up. So they're super soft. Clip off the join. My studio is beautiful and clean today. I don't know if you did projects, house projects. This was my main house project this year, and I love having my clean studio. But to be honest, at the end of a series of productions, everything's out, and I have to put it all away again. I can't start a project without a clean studio, but when I'm done, I have to start over with a project room. So what do you think? So where am I going now? I'm not doing art fairs anymore. I just want to make what I want to make. I want the freedom to follow a design idea through every iteration, every failure, until finally I get almost perfect. I got help from Todd Stewart at Miami in his class, and they helped me build a web page. My store is in Squarespace. It's called lucillehautau.com. And during the course of COVID, I will tell you, many pieces have been sold, but there's still a lot of beautiful pieces out there. Another new passion. I got these out of my safe. I love gems. For years, but not for the last two, I went to the Tucson Gem Show with Ginger Seipel and a number of other friends, and I have enough gems to set that'll take me the rest of my life. I absolutely love setting gems, but again, I'm a perfectionist, so what might take another jeweler a couple hours to do takes me all day. But my gems are set beautifully, well-crafted, beautiful gems. I am very excited, and that's one of my new directions I'm going to be going. And I'll show you my latest piece. As you can see, I'm pretty, I'm not very loose in what I do. I have my father's engineering precision, but every once in a while, something inspires me to take a different route. I purchased this snowflake cloud druzy at Tucson, and in the very next booth, snowflake obsidian. So in Andy Cooperman's workshop, a couple in June, I started to finally create this. This little piece of scrap just accidentally fits this perfectly. So I've been working on this for a while, and I'm just about ready to push the tiny little silver prongs over. Very different, very organic. This is about as loose as I get. I've also been working on a series of landscapes. While I may have failed painting, I can paint in metal. This is a river walk from Puerto Rico. My husband and I took a walk, And when I came back, I drew this out. And when I got home, I created this wonderful landscape. So I'm going to allow myself the freedom to bring different ways of pattern to you and to my work. I think it's time for questions, if anyone has any, or any comments. Let's do it from this side.
Thank you, Lucille. That was absolutely wonderful. It's
Well-
amazing how quickly you worked for this.
I'm sorry, what?
It was amazing how quickly you worked through that piece for this demonstration.
Well, I practiced it yesterday. You know, I cut my hand and the tool got stuck and there were a number, but you know, practice makes almost perfect, Ron, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I hope, I mean, I can't show my viewers the complex pieces. I have to work alone. I have to listen to classical music, but I have an apprentice and we rock. I mean, we have fun doing stuff. Did anyone have any questions or comments?
I love the layout of your studio. It looks fantastic. You're so organized and everything is just where you can reach it at fingertips. You made that look so easy.
I like to say that it's always that way, but it's only this way because I had a year and a half with no art fairs, no pressure to produce 75 pairs of earrings with 250 components. And because of this program, I finally got to clean my greeting room. So now I do trunk shows with a few friends and family. I have a great online store, lucillehautau.com. And I have to learn to be a photographer. So I've launched into a business that requires me to be the marketing agent like Sherry. I have to do my own photography because Ron says it's really hard and he's an expert and he won't do it. So when you see the photographs on my website, if they're really great, Ron did them. The rest of them I did. And you know, it's part of it. And I think people are used to with Etsy and the other platforms that it's okay to take your own photographs. So I put a lot of new pieces out there. I made a lot of colored gem earrings. I'm going to be working on tension set rings coming up. I'm going to be doing some landscapes, and I've promised a few people that they may have pagoda temples similar to the one that's in the art museum exhibit right now.
It is a beautiful piece.
It's very small. It's next to a giant painting, but you know what? If you wear it close to your heart, you can touch it. It'll bring you joy.
There was a question that I have, and obviously welcome for others to unmute and ask, but the big question is, are all of the pieces that you make wearable, or do you make others that are intended to be a standalone decorative piece?
I have only made a few decorative pieces early in my career, and I sent them to shows with really low price tags, and they're all gone. Fred Fenster, who is a pewter expert, asked us to do a roadmap of our life. I didn't know what he meant, but I took all the things I could find and pounded out a sheet of copper and etched the different stops I made in my life and framed it, and it was askew. It wasn't, and I sent it to an exhibit for $100. It's gone. I did do enamels in my early life. And those have all been sold. I did large enamel pieces. I love enamel, and maybe this year I'll get back to it, but enameling requires an absolute sterile studio, and it requires an entirely different skill set that I'm a little rusty on, but I can get back to it now. So no one, if anyone has any questions or comments, you can send them to me at lucille@lucillehautau.com. or through Miami's website, hautaula@muohio.edu. Like I said, I am blessed to be in Oxford, where the community, the people, Miami University enrich the opportunities for people to excel and create. Thank you so very much for this chance to share.
Thank you, Lucille. So if anyone has any questions, we still have a couple minutes, but Lucille,
it'd be
we
nice.
really appreciate your time. And Ron, thank you for the videography.
All right.
Yes, and I think it'd be nice for Lucille to hear some of the comments that people are posting.
Oh, I'd be interested in comments.
So Lisa said, I love this so much. Terry said, this is fabulous. You are such an inspiration. Laura shared, thank you for giving us a window into your studio practice. Jack said, thank you so much, Lucille. This was fabulous. Gail said,
Wow.
this was fabulous. Thanks. Oh, this must be a nickname for you, Sealy.
Yeah. Yeah. My little brother and sister couldn't say L, so I was CO. Yeah, they could not, they couldn't say that.
I did post in the chat your website, and right now I'm posting a quick thank you to everyone for attending and asking that you please take a few moments to complete a feedback form for our program. And another comment came in, loved it, Lucille, love you too, see you soon, Regina.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, we live in an environment of creative people, and not every town has this much support and excitement. I told you that we had music in our life, and I'm proud to say I have carried on that tradition. I took my grandsons to a performing arts series. Ron Hautau, the photographer today, was in the Richmond Symphony as an invited guest, and he played Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin. So I took my grandsons to see the Cincinnati Symphony at Hall Auditorium. They know it as Rap City in Blue. And the pianist went off and did all this stuff. And my grandson whispered, not quite quietly enough, Gigi, he's not playing it right. So we continued the tradition of exposing our family and friends to all the different ways you can create. You can create music, you can create art. I love to sew. There are so many ways that we can bring joy into lives. And I hope that my jewelry will be worn by people and help them achieve joy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucille.
Thanks.